Or, why do I feel like that? Or what was that dark cloud that just passed through me? That feeling that something is wrong. Well, pay attention to it because something is wrong. And, humans, we really have to get to our right relationship with the earth and all of its creatures. And so I just encourage you, when you have that feeling, that it might be a larger feeling than you think it is. It might not be about your relationship with your cousin or your lover or yourself or your memory or your trauma. It might actually be because you, like all the animals on the earth, are going through something very difficult and strange, and it's real. It's happening. So I thank you again, though. What I really wanted to say was thank you and much love to all of you. Mom tricked me.
Thank you. Whoa. Thank you, Sophie.
I like the color that became.
We're squeezed in here on the end of the porch so you can see the garden behind us.
Hey, Savi, will you come and sing the song with us?
I want to make sure my volume's up far enough. See if I can figure this out.
I want to thank everybody there who has done or not done something for the earth or for me or for God or for yourself. I want to thank you all, and I can't thank you individually because that would end up our hour with nothing entertaining enough. And you all know the wonderful thing you've done. Oh, you've got one, you've got one, you've got one.
I brought song sheets and handed them out
good.
to everybody.
Okay, so,
oh, you know what? Do you want me to put it up on the screen?
no,
Okay.
I want to look at faces.
No, I mean so they can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But first I'll sing it, and she'll put it up, and then you can pick it up. You pick it up while I'm singing it. Okay. You want to give me a note?
I'll give you a note.
I can type them.
Beneath the mountain, in the valley. Okay, this is written by a janitor in a school that I was running named Dan the Jan. And he cleaned really nicely, and he came in, and one day he came up to Lama, and he sat in the middle of the dome, and he sang this song to all of us. It's called The River of Light. This was 30 years ago, but it's never forgotten me, and I've never forgotten it. So it goes. You remember that note?
I do remember the note. This is the first note I got.
No? Okay. Beneath the mountain, in the valley, near a river, under the sky, the never-ending, everlasting love of the Lord. I gaze in wonder and amazement at the glory of your world, the never-ending, everlasting love of God, flowing through my being like a river of light, a river of light, a river of light, glowing through my being like a river of light, the never-ending love of God. Born this morning like a baby into heaven on the earth, the never-ending, everlasting love of the Lord. Everything is new and perfect when I see you through my eyes, the never-ending, everlasting love of God, flowing through my being like a river of light, a river of light, a river of light, glowing through my being like a river of light, the never-ending love of God. Okay.
Yay.
We should sing this once more because basically you hear it and you think it's really nice. But when you're in some moods, it's a very lovely thing to actually sing this to yourself because it's a way of erasing all the and if you don't want to use the word Lord, you can say Lordette.
Lord and the Lordettes.
Or you can, I don't know. I mean, it's made with God, and that is the American word, so we have to accept it. But awakening, you can have a million different words for the unnameable mystery that we all live in. But I would like you all to sing it with us so that, but you better keep the sound off because we're all in such different places that would probably not match. So let's go. Play loud enough so we don't hear it. Beneath a mountain.
I'm not looking at the words. You sing the words. I can look at mine.
Beneath the mountain, in the valley, near a river, under the sky, the never-ending, everlasting love of God. I gaze in wonder and amazement at the beauty of your world, the never-ending, everlasting love of God. Flowing through my being like a river of light, a river of light, a river of light, glowing through my being like a river of light, the never-ending love of God. Born this morning like a baby into heaven on the earth, the never-ending, everlasting love of God. Everything is new and perfect when I see it through your eyes, the never-ending, everlasting love of God. Flowing through my being like a river of light, a river of light, a river of light, glowing through my being like a river of light, the never-ending love of God.
Woo! Let's hear it for God!
Yay! Our friend Brady is here too.
I'm a cheerleader in the background.
And a chorus singer.
And a coffee maker.
And friend extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, is there anybody here who has a question? What do you?
Well, I've got a
she
little bit
puts
of an
this all
agenda.
up. So, okay, her
So,
agenda.
do you want to lead any practice, or should we go into your retreat book?
I don't care.
Let's do a little practice.
Okay.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, you're not going to tell me what to do?
I'm not going to tell you what to do. Not yet.
All right. Put your finger up under your nose and just breathe, and then take it down about a half an inch and feel the breath coming onto your finger. And when you feel the breath coming onto your finger, it's probably better to close your eyes rather than to look at me or anything that's behind us. But just to close your eyes so that you can feel the breath strongly. And take a few breaths, and then when you feel the breath, the wind of the breath on your finger, then feel the breath as it goes down into your body. You can take it down one side of your spine and back up from your perineum up the left side of your spine, or you can simply just bring it down to the bottom and up to the top. But feel your whole spine as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And then begin to feel, take your right first finger and put it in a hole in your clavicle. And then put your hand down and feel where your little finger is, and then feel that place in the back of your sternum. And as you breathe in and out, just feel the breath go into the back of your sternum and travel maybe down your sternum or around your sternum, but what you're feeling is your heart chakra when you get to the feeling of it. And sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it's in pain, and sometimes it's in question, and sometimes it's dead. Not the heart is dead, but it seems to keep beating no matter what's going on. But sometimes it feels like pain at first just because we're not used to feeling it so much. But it's one of the principal sensations of our fine heart and our subtle heart. And the more we can get into it, the more we can get into our subtle heart and then follow it into our subtle body. So let's just keep breathing and then feel whatever you feel as a sensation, not as an emotion, because emotions all have words, but just a sensation. See if the sensations are in, say, your calves or your toes or between your toes, or is there a big sensation in your spine or your stomach? Or do you just feel your breath coming in and out your lungs? Don't tell it what to do, just see if you can feel where it is. If there's a way to make yourself more comfortable, of course, feel free to do that. We don't have anybody here who's going to do dramatic things to make you wake up. This is an entertaining body that we're in. And as long as we don't identify and put stories or emotions onto what our body is doing, it's a fascinating and wonderful way to get into the subtle body and to be able to experience our fundamental, basic mirror self. The mirror self is basically the self that is a survivor, is a lover, is a reproducer of either food or things or people, is an educated and educator, not necessarily in universities or special places, but just somebody who is getting used to living someplace and enjoying it. And very often we get so involved in the study of spirituality that we begin to think of it as a noun. But it isn't a noun. Spirituality is a mini-second by a mini-second tuning into the mystery of being. And it's the place that we can go when something is happening without having to attach to it. Say we're in a conversation with a person who is being mean to us. That happens to me, and what happens is that, like, inside. And like just then when I did it, I didn't let myself feel the feeling, because that feeling hurts. But what I'm learning to do is to feel it and have it hurt, and to feel it and have it hurt, and to feel it and have it hurt. And interestingly enough, it gets as boring when it hurts as when it feels great. You know, I mean, when we feel really great, oh God, I want to keep this, and suddenly it goes away. Because we're not tuned into the feeling of it, where we're turned into is, oh, isn't this fun? I want to have fun like this forever. You know, well, you don't have to say I want to have pain like this forever, because you probably won't, particularly if you say that, because it sounds like a joke. But what I'm trying to point out is that we have these habits that turn us into pain and suffering, when pain and suffering does very, very little for our growth, for our understanding, but mostly for our love of life, of this incarnation, this very incarnation, which, since I found out I might die sooner than I thought I would, although 86 is certainly long enough time to live. But since I've been able to concentrate on this more, because I keep thinking having to do, well, what do I have to do? And I thought, nothing. I don't have to do anything. Why have I felt I have done so many things? And for me, it has to do with just wanting to be a good person. And I don't know that I was any more a good person than I was a bad person. I mean, I can't possibly judge who I was, and I don't think any of us will ever understand the mystery that life is. But certainly we can enjoy it and love each other and love others and even love those people we don't like very much. Or you can change the words. One of the things I've done over the last 3 months since I knew that I had this piece of not tuned into who I'd been most of my life, little thing in my head, I had started disliking nouns because they seem like they form life and make everything still, and there's nothing still. It's all, we are happening so much every second, and all of us, so we kind of make it littler and littler until it gets into a noun. So just pick something in your room to look at, some little teeny thing. Take your eyes and look at some tiny little thing. I'm looking at the leaves of my fig tree. So I call it a fig tree. That's a noun, right? Well, there are these leaves, and they're drawing all kinds of energy from the air. Probably 15 different kinds of air pollutants. That's the word that came up for me. But also water, and in the water, different kinds of chemicals that we don't even know about. And then probably 1,000 other different things coming from the air, and the wind is blowing. There's all that happening. And then there's everything that's coming up from the ground, and everything that is resulting from the wind. I mean, whatever you're looking at has also photons on top of it, if you can see it. Teensy, teensy, teensy new things that cameras can't see, that microscopes can't see. And all those photons are moving around. Billions of them are coming through our bodies, turning. Which, I mean, it's just fantastic, and we can't tune into all of it, right? So we choose. But we can choose into our subtle body, and the reason I'm emphasizing the traveling into the subtle body is because it puts us more deeply in touch with the inner self, who, once we get in touch with it 10% of the time, because that's good. If you're in touch with your inner body or your inner being 10% of the time, from where I'm at in my spiritual path, that's a lot. I used to think there was a way to get in touch with my inner body 100% of the time, but to tell you the truth, I'm listening to the doctors now about how long I'll live, because I don't have a clue. I feel fine, right? But they're telling me I'm not going to feel fine forever, and I'm going to die pretty soon. So I don't know. I mean, that's a medical statistic. But there's only one. I'm trying to fix a lot of things around the house. They don't all fix. Some of them will go wrong. So what? What really matters has to do with this very second, right now. So close your eyes now and feel, where are you this very second? How are you there this very second? It's fine if you feel horrible. Fine if you feel shitty. It's fine if you feel good. It's all fine. It depends on what your whole psyche can get to, that doesn't judge how you feel. It doesn't insist that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't feel that you're any worse or any better than anybody else, because I am at this point in the conclusion that all of us are maybe 1% conscious of what's going on to make this complex being and this complex being and all of the complex beings who are on this show, right? I mean, we're all the same. We're so much more the same than the differences we make. And so we make fights to make our life interesting. But there are ways of making it interesting which doesn't cause harm and pain. One thing I have to say that I am extremely happy about is that I don't have an idea of what happens when I die. So I don't have to be afraid of dying and going to hell or whatever other monstrous places there might be when one dies. Who knows what happens? I mean, I watched the snakes in my pond making love today, and then I saw the fishes and they weren't eating them. Wasn't that great? And and I look at all the plants, and some of them are doing great, and some of them are doing horrible. And my son-in-law and my daughter had a fight this morning, and that was hard, and it hurt me. And then I thought, wait a minute, they're married, they love each other. It's their problem. It's not mine. I mean, all of these things are happening to us all the time, and to be able to find this peaceful place that lives inside, which I think has come to me much more thoroughly now that I know I'm not going to live for a very long time. A very long time is anything over 2 years in my case. That's a long time. So I think I'll take a pause and see what Madam wants me to do. What would you like me to do?
It's my turn. I'm going to read something. So this is from Asha's retreat book, and I'll share a picture. But I do want to give you an update. We are working on a website. Our dear friend Georgiana Reed is working on a website where some point in the near-ish future, you'll be able to find Asha's retreat book and her meditation cards, and they'll be available for purchase. And sounds like we might be negotiating pricing and stuff like that, but that'll be available. So this picture that I'm about to show you is the timeline from the front, like the third or fourth page of the book. And I'm going to start by showing you the full picture, and then as we've done before, I'll zoom in. So we'll focus on a certain area today. So let me see if I can do this. So this is the whole picture. I can make it any brighter for you. That's it. And last time we ended somewhere around here. I don't know if you can see my little cursor. So I'm going to zoom in. And this is about where we are. So I'm going to read from the beginning of a writing that Asha did at the beginning of the retreat book. A 40-day retreat I did in the winter of 1989 in a 10 by 12 cabin in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains near Charlottesville, Virginia. No electricity, no running water, 30-minute walk to any people. And as we've been going with these conversations each month, I read a little bit more, but I always read that first paragraph or first sentence. It's always the same, so we can kind of get a flavor of where Asha was when she was writing this. I brought with me watercolors and watercolor paper and pens and a large sketchbook with the intention of recording the events of the retreat daily, so that others who thought about a long retreat could have a record of at least one person's experience. My intention was to be honest, to record as clearly as possible whatever experiences seemed most interesting to me from the last 24 hours. I took 3 books, Bhante Gunurantana, I can never say that right. Is it The Path of Serenity and Insight? I might have typed it right. The Path of Serenity and Insight, Ibn Arabi's Journey to the Lord of Power, and a Xeroxed text with lists of wholesome and unwholesome thoughts, the 37 Factors of Enlightenment, and sundry other lists from Tibetan teachings, all of which I memorized. So last time we heard about the 21 peyote buttons, and we heard a little bit about Ram Dass. And then here, Asha, you can see it says Europe, and then it says, is it Cagnus and Jacques?
Canyestermere, right on the I've forgotten a lot of nouns.
Yeah. Describe it and maybe I can help.
Well, the south of France is sitting on it. Spain is sitting on it. Morocco was sitting on it.
Anybody want to jump in? Please do.
The Mediterranean.
The Mediterranean. Okay.
Kanya was a beach on the canyon. There were a lot of perched villages up because they saved all the lower places to do foods, and they were all kind of stone houses, and a lot of artists lived in all those villages when I went there. And to tell you the truth, I was just an artist a young artist. I was in my early 20s, and I had been traveling around on a Lambretta, and I was looking for my way as an artist. So I rented a room, but I also had realized that I couldn't live with any men because it was too early. That wasn't part of our society anymore. But I didn't want to marry somebody unless I'd lived with them. That seemed like a little bit dangerous. And I wanted to learn French. So I thought, well, I'll go to Cagnes-sur-Mer. I'll find somebody who doesn't speak English, who's a man who lives nearby, and I'll have a love affair with them, and then my parents won't find out. So I did. Across the street, there was an English woman who was being with a Frenchman who she was breaking up with, and he was really nice, and I had a wonderful time. Unfortunately, he fell in love with me, so my mother taught me that if you let a man fall in love with you, you're supposed to marry him. Which I didn't think was a really hot idea, but anyway, I sent her a picture of him, and I told her he had proposed to me, so she immediately sent me orders to come and accompany my grandmother across the country. So I had a lovely time with him. I learned some French, and I had a wonderful time, and I don't know whether I had a wonderful time. I had an exotic time. I mean, when you're in a foreign country, the one thing that comes up with me now is I have really big feet, and they're really wide, and I could never find nice looking shoes. And there was somebody who I liked a lot there, who was a friend of a woman I knew there, and he was a shoemaker. Where I lived in Los Angeles, there were no shoemakers. There were only professional, there were still people who made shoes just by themselves for individuals. Pardon me?
I'm going to the store. Text me if you need me.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Anything.
All right. Yes, thank you. So, anyway, so this guy made me some shoes. They didn't fit, but
Too small.
they were too small. But he had been a fighter of the Germans in the south of France. I would like to add that having grown up during the Second World War, having seen the atomic bombs drops, having seen the Holocaust, people coming out, having read novels by people who had crossed the oceans, has a deep space that I haven't really touched yet. What's happening to me now as I'm getting closer, deeper and deeper into my subtle body, is that when I think about things out of the past, I feel I feel sensations that I didn't know I had. And out of those sensations there comes, now because I can bear the sensations, I don't think of them as pain now, I think of them as sensations. If I allow myself to be in those sensations for a long enough time, then I feel like crying, but instead of crying, what I'm learning to do is to not to cry, it's just to see them as events that happened, and that I didn't have to choose those kind of events anymore. I didn't have to choose the pain of the war. I could choose doing work to help people in the war. I could choose. So I wanted to become a nurse as soon as I found that out, and did become a nurse for 23 years when I was about 42. I had taught up until that time.
You went to nursing school at 42?
I went to nursing school at 42, and then I worked at UVA Hospital for 22 years. So that was all interesting.
And then I want to show you the picture here. Oh, I guess I can share it on the screen. And then it says Steve. Is this where you met Steve? Were you in Europe when you met Steve?
Oh no, I crossed the country. I crossed the country to take my grandmother across
Right.
the
Okay.
world.
Okay.
And being an artist, of course, I knew artists, and so I landed in New York, and my friends in New York took me to Cedar Bar, which is where all the modern artists were at that time. And I met my first husband and a bunch of other artists, some famous ones. But nobody was famous when you're in that kind of a group. There, people's famousness is out there. It's the same. I was surprised at how many people recognized me when the news came out that I was really ill, because I heard from many people who I didn't remember. I'd maybe met them once, but who I'd said some wise thing that came out of my mouth, but didn't necessarily, um, didn't necessarily be something that was deep inside of me, and I maybe never saw that person again. But I got so many beautiful letters that it embarrassed me, because I don't. It's very hard to feel that you deserve love if you're just a normal person like everybody else. I have to tell you this great story that, oh man, I forgot his name. Oh well, I can't tell you a story because I can't. Excuse me. This is what happens to your brain when you have something go in and take part of it out.
Let me ask you another
Where
question.
am I? Yeah, ask me
Okay.
another question.
So next on the timeline, it says Church of the Living God. Where did I see that? Maybe I made it up.
Oh well, anyway,
You married Steve.
I married Steve Durkee, who was a really good
Here.
artist. He was a really, really beautiful artist. And he, like many men, doesn't like his wife to be an artist. So I stopped being an artist at that time, and had babies. I had 4 babies, and we started the Lama Foundation after having lived in this church that we bought, that had been owned by the, I don't know, some graduate army people whose Nowney name I can't remember.
Is Church of the Living God something that you two started? Or was that where you moved in?
No, it was just an old. It was a place. It was a place where a lot of men met and drank. I think, and maybe on Sundays they had. It had been the church for a factory that made pens in near Haverstraw, New York, and we had a whole community there. And then we started taking psychedelics there, and then and then we started doing shows there with. I can't remember.
Was it USCO?
We did USCO. We traveled around to colleges, and I was the main photographer. I would take, 4,000 pictures, and then we put them in 15 boxes, and we would overload students because Mir Baba had become our teacher at that time, and excuse me, that was my first serious teacher, and basically, I don't know. I hope some of you all have your first serious teacher who just stops everything for a little while so you can rest in the peace of the oneness of all. But anyway, what our feeling was is that we could have, fill up people's stuff, with impulses, with input, like fancy movies, a lot of violence, and a lot of different kind of music, and then soft music, and then beautiful music, and then just cross sections of all sorts of input, and slowly move it into slow, and then we would have an oscilloscope that just had a flat line on it, and we had and have silence and a little bit of meditation, hoping we could get people into a psychedelic space without drugs, because we were slowly giving up drugs, having not come a place. It was stopping to be. What had happened was that the mafia had taken over the drug trade and had gone to everywhere the drugs were being sold, and said, well, we'll keep using you, but we want the power. It's what they're doing in Mexico and a lot of other places now, not with drugs, but with everything. So
And Mayor Baba didn't want you to take LSD anymore. Is that right? Am I
yeah,
remembering?
then we moved, and then I was friends with Ram Dass at Stanford, and then he was at Millbrook, and we, you know, we started doing stuff together, and then we started living with him, Steve and I, and he was trying to not be homosexual, which he failed completely at doing. But but during that time when we were there, we were taking acid once a week and hanging out sometimes with Ken Kesey and the all those people. But we had a much quieter, subdued life, and so when Ken at one point came and wanted us to take over his scene, which had the Hells Angels with it, and I had a 2-year-old baby, so I didn't want really the Hells Angels as part of my life, so we didn't do that, and Stephen Richard didn't want to do that either. So, but after about 5 years, Richard wanted to keep taking out um, acid, and um, Mayor Baba told us to stop, or he would stop being our inspiration in terms of making sure that everything didn't go multiple and weird. Well, it was very clear that we had a picture of him around, and every time we look at it, if things got too weird, and they stopped being weird, so that was nice. I wish you could all feel the wind. Kind of not very cold, and not very hot wind. It feels so good.
We can hear it.
So let's put a pause button there, and maybe next time, maybe if we do this in June, we can talk about llama and how.
Oh yeah, let's go really
llama.
slow, and maybe I'll
Yeah,
live
go
till
really
I go
slow.
to the end of it.
Yeah, okay. You have to live till we get through the story. So I thought maybe we could do a couple things. We could get a few questions, and then we might take a little tour around the garden. That'd be fun. Because I talk about the garden all the time in these things that I send out. And I thought maybe a minute or two in the garden, but we don't have to.
Let's see.
Let's see. So questions, and let's try to keep it to the content of what we're talking about. And Bryn, I see your hand.
Hi. When you say you were an artist, and I know you've lifelong been an artist, I'm curious specifically or particularly about the time period, when you were pretty young still, like a little younger than me, but kind of my age. And you said, I was an artist. Was it about what you made, or was it about how you understood the world, or both?
Well, I have to tell you one thing. I remember when I decided to become an artist, it was after having seen some paintings that moved me. I mean, they just moved me. And they weren't necessarily the most famous artists or anything. But, and I'm feeling my subtle heart when I'm thinking about this. And so I wasn't, I didn't come in with a lot of talent. I had an older sister who had talent, and I remember being in the 3rd grade, and there was a 4th or 5th grader who was painting, and I remember she painted I think it was a religious painting in this class, but it was big, it was like this big, and it had Mary and the 3 kings and their stuff and straw and animals. And it was very skillful, and I looked at that and I thought, oh my God. Oh, I probably didn't use that language. And that and my sister's talent, which my sister never really developed, but she had a very natural talent and was a really good painting, but she would only go to art classes and paint for models, which didn't interest me. And so I kept pursuing it in high school. I just did terribly in the art class, but I minored in it at Stanford. I studied international relations because I knew that I would always be interested in art and literature, so I figured I better study about politics in the world at that time. And so when I was in school, I just did what I was called to do, and then when I went to graduate school, I took pottery classes. And I think it was after my my children got old enough and both my marriages had broken up before I really had the time to really seriously go back. But every time I had to sit in a class or every time I went to anything, I always had a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper I could draw on. And it, it, I just, I could draw anything. You know, if there's nothing else to draw, I draw my feet. Or I remember I spent about 3 years every time I was in the airport. I'd spend the whole time I was waiting, you know, those hours in the airport, I would draw feet because nobody knew I was drawing their feet. So I had hundreds of foot drawings. And so, and then when I was in the hospital, I was drawing blood from people in a clinical place that I was working in. And I would have, you know, all day, 8 hours with somebody, and I was taking blood every 10 minutes and then taking care of it. Well, between the 10 minutes, I could draw pictures of people. So I learned how to draw people's actual faces and give them to give their parents, but I get a copy of them. So that's how I learned how to make art. But what I, it was some kind of urgent need. It's a good question because it's making me want to cry. There was a great need to not belong to anything. And there's something about art that is free of any rulers. You know, I never got caught by the rules of the museums or the rules of the art collectors. The art collectors are the worst, you know, because it was always mixed with money and it was always mixed with whatever the popular things were. But I think when I think about it now, I think that it was right for me. It was a really effort to find out what was important to me, and that it was more the space and the emptiness of the place you work from. Well, you know, you draw too. Anybody who draws knows that when you're making music or any form of art, that when you're really in it, there's nobody home. You know, so that your soul is really alive. So I think that's really what did it, was that I, somewhere along the line there, I just found out that if you can give up the rules and give up having to make products and just put yourself in the place where you can play with color or music or pencils or paper or um, now I don't know. I watch films and there are very few films that I find that soul quality. But when we do that, we know there aren't very many of those now because people are really caught in some money trap in this country. I don't know about the other countries. Is that enough of an answer, my dear?
It was fab. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Brent. Eliezer.
Latifa.
Yeah, hi.
Bryn's question also, Ash, was about when you use the word artist, especially in your early life, if that only meant making things or was it a way of seeing and living? And having been around you a lot and lived with you, I can confirm, Bryn, that uh, she doesn't need materials or to be making something to have that artist vision. For example, we'd be sitting on her porch and she'd be hyper aware of the angle of the cars in her parking lot, to the extent that she would ask me to go and like shift it by about 18 degrees to the left so that they would be parallel. And I was just with her last week, and I could tell she'd stop in front of her garden and stare at it for about 10 minutes in silence, and then go, "It needs a purple flower up in the left, and it needs something higher over here." So I think she's always viewed everything she was doing through that lens of aesthetics, really.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eliezer.
May I say something? This is Yukari.
Yeah, hi, Yukari.
Hi, Kari. God.
Can you turn on your camera by chance?
No, my work environment require this particular permanent seal, so I'm sorry for this. But Asha,
Yes.
being artist, I actually the most essential experience I had about you is that after many years of not visiting Lama, I went up to the ISC and saw all the ruins of the fire being decorated. And I sat down and cried for many time, I think a whole hour. I just sat down. I went there in the morning, and the dawn was happening, and then I saw all the ruins of devastating fire being decorated beautifully. And then I just said, this is a way to live. Like, you make things beautiful, and especially the suffering, especially the pain, you make it beautiful. And that is you, Asha, and I love you very much. The end.
Thank you, Yukari. I wish I could see you. Send me a picture.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who has any questions or explorations? I have a friend who goes to a Zen class and she says there's a questions, no answers period. I thought you would like that.
One of the things that I like that happens, well, let's start. This is the only thing I do now. I was doing a lot of stuff on Zoom, but this is the only thing I do besides our Llama tea party. And I want to thank Latifa, who's making all these things happen for 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 my students and those people that I know, because I just don't have. I don't know. I mean, I look at you all and I want to hug and I want to say hi and I love you, and you can't do it all at once with everybody. It takes too long. And basically, and so there are people who come here, and I am coming to Taos and possibly California, and we'll do something for anybody who wants to come to where I do something some evening in California, or maybe 2 evenings in the same thing in New Mexico.
Stay tuned.
So, you know, but the silence is just as good as the noise. But that's just one of the things that I'm finding out. Sometimes this somehow, it's particularly in the tea meetings and in these meetings for me, because I love so many of you. I know so many of you. I don't know everybody whose faces I see, but honest to God, I know most of you, and it's just so moving to see you and to realize what this, of all the awful things and deaths that have happened with the coronavirus, that this particular mode of communication is possible now, and that we found out that we can do it. It's just not some mysterious esoteric thing, that we've had to learn how to make it work, and it does. It does. You can actually FaceTime, and you can see each other, and you can see each other if you don't. I mean, there's so many of us who don't have particularly any conversation to have, but to just, it's like go bling, and then you see a face of an old friend, and it's just such a thrill, to go on now 3 pages. We haven't been on page 3.
Yeah, we'll go to page 3. That's where most people have their cameras off.
Really, no, it's so great.
Now we got page 3. We see you all.
Oh my God.
Hey, I want to say something.
Yes. Okay.
I love you so much. I'm so excited to have figured out the time thing and to be on here. And thank you both for making these offerings happen. And I was wondering if you could take that whole book and say what the most one most shareable thing out of all of it, if that's kind of silly. It was all in each moment was its thing, but I just, out of all of that precious book that you're going through, I'm curious, there's one thing that out of all of it.
Well, I'm getting my daughter to, I made those by hand and it took me days, and I had to charge $200 because I had to buy all the pieces separately, and that's what it cost. So I think my daughter's going to make that book, which is going to be 14 by 17 or 11 by 17, in a paperback, and will only be $50, so you can buy it. But also, there's one at Lama now, and there's several of, there's some of them in the world. But the page that I like is a little watercolor painting. I don't have the book here now, but it's a little watercolor painting that has the retreat house is very small. It's like this, and then there's some beautiful trees around it, and then there's this big sort of lumpy figure in it. You can't see, but it's just like a silhouette of this figure in it. And the caption under it says, "I wonder if there's any way I can get myself small enough to live in this tiny little house for 40 days." I just look at that every time, and I just have to laugh, because it's so hard for me to get small. I was 6 foot most of my life, and now I'm 5'8", so it's a lot easier now. But there's a lot of water. I did a watercolor each day, and then I did I looked for 40-day retreat books, or even long retreat books, but people would describe, well, they locked me in a room and they brought me dishes, and then I would have to go to the bathroom and there wasn't toilet paper, and sometimes I'd have to wait a long time for the toilet paper. Or, it didn't tell you anything. And then I went to people who had portals, which are religions. They're a group of beliefs, a group of practices to get you deep inside yourself. And then when you're deep inside yourself, you still need people to, knock on your ego, because it's always trying to say, I'm important, or this is important. And basically, if you have people around who tell you, give it up, you have to make choices. If you want to be happy, you have to choose to be happy. You have to choose in response. So it's throughout all that book, the watercolors I made were free of thought. And what she's reading were made in the first 3 days, when my thinking was about kind of looking at my development. So it's probably better to look at the book, but it's not out yet.
Yeah, what I love about, there's a lot of things I love about it, but one of them is that it's not about, there's not platitudes about how great it is to sit and retreat. There's one picture of Asha, and if I'm remembering correctly, it's like this tall, skinny rock or something. And then you see this body that's just draped over the rock. And it's just such a great expression of the different states one goes through. The joys, the sorrows, the agonies, the ease when you're on retreat. Yeah. That's what I love about it. Okay, I'm going to do a time check. We're almost out of time. Do you want to see a quick shot of the garden? Should we do that, or one more question? If anybody has a question, now is the time.
The garden.
Right. I'll just spin it around. Is that okay?
Yeah. Actually, it's Varda. I was sad to hear when you said that, Steve couldn't support you as an artist, and you ended up giving it up and having babies and only recovering it later.
Wait a minute, Varda. I also had to teach school and support us.
I
forgot that.
Did you ever have any kind of healing about that art with Steve? And just as an aside, when I met Steve and came to Lama and I was in deep need of healing, he gave me this assignment to draw a circle every single day and to draw within that circle, as a, I guess, centering, you could say. And so I had this whole pile of circle drawings, watercolors that I did over the years, because I carried a compass around me and with me and a set of watercolors. And that was an amazing assignment. That was, the only art assignment he ever gave me. but just did you have any kind of healing or rapprochement with him about
I
about
helped
the arts?
a lot of his paintings. I did a lot of drawings in his paintings. I helped him put them together. You know,
Uh-huh.
And
I don't think I ever saw any of his paintings.
stopped painting by the time you met him.
Uh-huh.
the song that we sang at the beginning today was by Dan the Jan, who was the janitor at the school you were teaching at, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I was a little bit late, so I missed that. But if it's, I know that song. Is it the one about the river?
The River of Light.
Yeah, I love that song.
Okay.
I'm very happy to see you. Love and blessings. And I'm really happy you'll be able to come to Taos. I hope you have lots of strength and support for doing that in a beautiful way. And I'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me make sure we're on the right view, Asha. Hang on. Yeah, we got it.
This is a rock I bought for my daughter. Can you see it? I can't see
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
It looks like a dinosaur egg.
Well, it's this big. These are big feet. But anyway, I had so many flowers, but they only really show when the sun is out. You know, I mean, the more photons, the more joy. And here come the peonies, and then here's the compost.
Do you live down a hill, kind of?
The what?
Do you live down a hill?
Yeah.
Where's the pond?
Here's the pond.
Let me make sure they can see it. Lift it up a little bit. There you go. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Asha, where's Tony?
Who?
Tony. There's
Tony.
Say hello, Tony.
Hi, Tony. Hi,
Hi,
Tony.
Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Tongue. Hey, Tony, show him your tongue. Come on.
Hi, Tony.
Sometimes goes down to his leg.
Oh man.
So anyway,
I think we might be concluding, because I know Savi will come out and say, we're done.
thank you guys so much for appearing. I really appreciate seeing you all. It's been a joy for me. It's just a joy. So, you know, if you come back with any questions. I'm happy to answer any of them.
It would be cool to see Savi and any of the girls, the daughters who are there, just to say hello and see them.
She was on at the
You missed Sabi.
Marta. You'll see it on the recording.
Okay, I'll go see it. Okay, thank you.
Lots of love.
Love to all.
Thank you.
Thank you so.
Love you, Asha.
So.
Love you.
Asha.
Love you, Asha. Thank you, Latifa. Yeah, thank you for all your service.
Thank you.
Making it happen.
For all your service.
So much love, Asha. So much love.
I can't tell you how
Aloha.
good.
Good to see you
Love
all.
you both. Aloha.
Yum 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 yum. Yum 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 yum.
Coming to California, yay.
Yum 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 yum.
Thank you so much.
Love you, Asha. Thank you, Latifa.
And this new baby. Oh God. Oh, baby. Oh, and Rebecca, you have another baby. Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh, this is so hard. I feel greedy. I feel so greedy. I can't believe it. Bad qualities. All right, we're gonna get off. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye. See you next
Latte,
Tuesday. If anybody wants to meditate on Tuesday, I'll be there.
latte, paragate.
Love you.
Oh, and don't forget to learn that song. Oh, let's sing it. Let's sing it together.
Okay.
Okay.
Send it out, please.
Okay.
It's in the chat.
It's in the
Is
chat.
it?
Yeah, you can cut and paste it. But I might try to send it out next time. Okay, ready?
Beautiful Diana's baby. Look at the babies. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Ananda.
Hi. Yeah, hi,
There's a
Ananda.
concert for the hangers on.
Beneath the mountain, in the valley, near a river, under the
Under the
sky,
sky, the
never
never-ending,
everlasting
everlasting
love
love
of
of the Lord.
I
I
I
gazed in
gazed in
wonder
wonder
and
and amazement
at
at
the
the
glory
glory
of your word,
of the
and never-ending,
never-ending
everlasting love
love
of God,
of God.
flowing through my being like a river of light, a river of light, a river
A
of
river of light,
light, flowing through my being like a
like
river
a
of
river
light,
of
a
light, a
never-ending
never-ending
love
love
of
of
God.
God.
go.
Born this
Born this
morning
morning,
like
like
a
a
baby
baby,
into
into
heaven
heaven
on the
on the earth,
the
the
ever
never-ending, everlasting love
of
of
the
the Lord.
Lord.
Everything
Everything
is
is
new
new,
and
everything
perfect
is new and perfect when
when
I
I
see
see
it
it
through
through
your
your
eyes.
eyes.
The
The
never
never-ending,
lasting
everlasting
love
love
of
of
God,
God.
flowing through
Flowing
my
through my
being like
veins,
a river
river
of
of
life,
light,
a river
river
of
of
light,
light,
a
a
river of
river of light,
light, flowing through my
flowing through my
like a
veins,
river of light, the never ending
never-ending
love of
love
God.
of God.
Woo! Woo, 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 woo. I want to find out from Hakika if you're doing okay. And I would like everybody to send a prayer into her life of health and well-being. Good. Yay, we love you so much. You've done so much.
Love the Lord Almighty God through the rays of the
So
sun, through the waves of the air, through the all pervading life and space, purified.
Okay, here we go. We're going to say goodbye, goodbye, goodbye,
Heal
goodbye.
her body, heart, and soul.